I'd like to talk very briefly about Inglourious Basterds.
Okay.
In last week's episode, we did talk about Inglourious Basterds for quite a long time, actually.
It was about 30 minutes you spent on it.
Yeah.
I think.
But obviously that was lost because you can't really have a debate about a film when you could only hear one person.
Yeah. I've checked and rechecked the microphone so many times for this week, so we should be good.
Yeah.
We better be.
So I just want to talk a couple of things about it. I don't want to rehash all the things because...
Okay.
If
we summarise our main points, yeah.
Yeah. So my main thoughts on it was that basically, I don't know, I like parts of it, but also there's a lot of it that feels like Tarantino's trying to show off.
Which is, that's Tarantino.
Yeah, it is Tarantino.
It's sort of unavoidable in a way.
I remember studying this, or like the opening couple of minutes of this film in university, and apparently even the opening credits font is a reference to some old film that no one's fucking seen. It's like,
is it the old
gives a
Inglourious
shit,
Basterds?
Tarantino? Who cares? Oh, but I mean, possibly. I don't know. All I know is
like
that
a 70s version. I'm not sure to what extent it's a remake of it, or if it's just the title.
Apparently, I was doing some research on this just to look it up. Apparently, the Inglourious Basterds were real, but obviously Tarantino has Tarantinoified them.
Oh yeah, I
to
think
a
there's
very,
definitely
very heavy extent.
a lot of artistic license in Inglourious Basterds.
Yeah.
Certainly towards the end.
Yes, definitely. So the other thing I wanted to mention was taste, and whether this is considered poor taste. And then I would like to do a very brief comparison to Jojo Rabbit, because I know we've talked about Jojo Rabbit quite a lot.
So this will be a spoiler for Inglourious Basterds as well. So if you haven't seen it, do skip ahead.
And probably Jojo Rabbit as well, because
yeah, to some extent certainly, yeah.
So, the climax of Inglourious Basterds, in a classic Tarantino fashion, there's all these random, various plot threads of all these different characters.
Yeah,
all
converging by
the
the main
same
storylines. Yeah.
And then basically the scene there's lots of various bits and bobs. I just don't know how I feel about it changing history. So there, at the end of the film, there's a bit with a man machine gunning Hitler and then them blowing up a cinema full of Nazis.
Yeah, including all the top-ranking officials.
Yes.
Of Nazi Germany, yeah.
And it just seemed so weirdly out of place, voyeuristic. Look at this explosive violence towards Nazis, because I don't know whether you know this, but I'm Tarantino and I'm a genius, and I've recognised that Nazis, they're bad guys. It's like, wow, fucking revolutionary, Tarantino. You should tell the historians that.
Look at it.
Yeah, it's so... Yeah. It's like... it is like gore porn, isn't it? It's just...
Yeah, pornography.
Pornography. It's good. It's just so hugely over the top. And it's like... My main problem with it is... I don't really care about the violence or whatever. I don't care about that. What I care about is, that didn't happen. In actual history. That's not even attempting to be what actually happened in actual history. Why? What's the point of showing that? That's very... I felt like the only point of showing that was to just show, oh yeah, I'm killing Hitler. It's like, okay,
yeah.
So
that's what I really loved.
Doesn't add anything to the film.
But that moment with the machine gunning Hitler's face off, literally, was that was the one moment I was like, come on, enough of that, Tarantino. You're doing really nicely before. You don't need to do that. But what I will say,
so unnecessary,
in its defense, in terms of whether it really happened or not. Would you like to see Tarantino do a film that's trying to be historically accurate with his sensibilities? Because I feel like having it be this didn't happen. This is my weird paranoid fantasy idea of World War II, and knowing that it's in its own universe is sort of better, because then he can be the freak that he is. Without, I think if he tried to do Schindler's List, essentially, that would be a lot more.
That would be even
in bad
worse.
taste. Yeah. But I mean, I suppose you could argue, because it is the Bastards were a real group of people, you could argue there's still that sort of sense of.
Well, the thing is I feel like he's not giving enough gravitas to the situation, and you know, like
there's
the
definitely a
amount
levity to it.
Yeah, you know, the amount of people that suffered and died, and like that didn't happen in real life. And I just feel like, I don't know, it just feels like it's in bad taste. Whereas if you compare that to Jojo Rabbit never, you know, it's a story set in history, but it never actively changes history, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it never, none of the things in it directly, you know, change anything. But like, so the climax of Jojo Rabbit takes place during, like, you know, the is it the raid of Berlin? I don't know what the correct word would be, but like,
no, I think it's Berlin's already, like the attack of Berlin, isn't it? Basically,
yeah, but like, you know, the collapse of Berlin, shall we say? But like, you know, which happened, and there's nothing in Jojo Rabbit that specifically goes against what did happen. It all sort of neatly fits into the diegesis of, you know, real life. While Inglourious Basterds directly changes it.
Yeah, but I feel like, I don't know, it's an interesting question because they're both not essentially, like they're trying to do a very similar thing.
Yeah.
Like Jojo Rabbit, I would say, is not in bad taste because it's satire, isn't it? It's satire and it's comedy, and it's doing its utmost to show the flaws and the stupidity behind Nazi Germany and why it's bad through this satire and through taking the piss.
Like Jojo Rabbit's probably more intelligent. Like
a lot more intelligent, I think. Whereas, you know, the Tarantino's approach is just, just kill it. It's like, that's not really stopping it from happening again, is it?
Yeah. Also, Jojo Rabbit on the whole is a lot more of a wholesome sort of film.
Yeah.
You know, it's basically about a child unlearning what he's been brainwashed and learning to accept people for it, and like taking down the divides between people. While the Inglourious Basterds doesn't have any major philosophy outside of, the Nazis aren't great, are they?
Yeah. Well, I think that's the other thing I would bring up is like there is a set of characters throughout the film. It's like set there to what I assumed was to be humanizing a Nazi private. He's like a Nazi soldier. He's a sniper.
It's the star of Nation's Pride, isn't he?
Yes, he's the star of Nation's Pride, and he's like, but you don't know that he's you know he's a Nazi, but you don't know he's like this. He's famous for killing a load of people or whatever. You just know that he's a Nazi, but also he just seems like a very nice person. And I thought this was going a very long way to humanize him. Like, he's very humble. He's very nice about it. Doesn't really care about his past achievement. He just wants to. He's just a fan of cinema or whatever. And I was like, it's going a really long way to humanize it. And then at the end, he just fucking dies, and there's nothing.
No payoff to it.
There's no payoff to that humanization at all. Because I thought, like, that would be a really nice touch if they were like.
Not all the Nazis were necessarily.
Not all the Nazis were.
By philosophy.
Not all.
Some of them were just German soldiers conscripted in and had to fight.
Exactly. Like, he's just a private. He's not anywhere near a high-ranking Nazi. He's just a soldier doing his job. And I thought that was, a very interesting take on it. And then he fucking dies, and then they blow the cinema full of Nazis up, and it's like, well, I haven't really learned anything from this, have we? It's just look at Nazis die, look how great this is, look how amazing we are. And it's like, well, it's just there's no nuance there, is there?
Yeah, because I think the one reason I really like Bastards so much more than the rest of Tarantino's stuff is because outside of those moments, there's flashes of brilliance in there from where he seems his most restrained. So, like, you're talking about the opening sequence.
Yes.
To be honest, it's basically most scenes involving Christoph Waltz, who's the powerhouse of that. So there's the opening scene with the farmhouse. There's the underground bar scene, which has also been analysed in other places. And then also for me, there was the strudel scene in the restaurant.
Yes, again,
which was
good.
Was that's what Tarantino could do if he was subtle. Like, there's so much underlying, like, unspoken menace in that scene when all they're talking about is how much he likes strudel. And that's masterful filmmaking, and it frustrates me to watch that and be like, why can't you do this normally?
Yeah. Well, so that's the thing. I should point out, like, there are parts of it that are really seriously good.
Yeah.
Like, again, anything with Christoph Waltz in it, like, all those bits are really, really good. The opening scene is fantastic. And again, as you said, the bar scene with Michael Fassbender is really, really good. Like, the tension he manages to build is just outstanding. Like, throughout those scenes, you're just on the edge of your seat completely.
Yeah, and so much of it is like subtextual as well.
Yeah.
Like so, in both
there's
those
a lot
scenes,
of it that's just absolutely excellent.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I did like it.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's not my favourite Tarantino film by any means. And also, I don't know. I just don't like Tarantino as a person, I don't think.
No. I definitely don't like him as a person. And overall, as a filmmaker, I'm sort of lukewarm.
Yeah.
Because, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is the only film of his that I've actually, disliked. The rest of them I all think are sort of ranging from fine to, pretty good. And Basterds I really enjoyed. Although I do want to rewatch it now, having had this discussion, see maybe if my opinion's changed at all.
Yeah.
But even Pulp Fiction, which I do enjoy, but I always felt unsatisfied from watching it. I think part of it can be explained through Basterds because Pulp Fiction has the same kind of multi-narrative strands interweaving, but Pulp Fiction very deliberately doesn't go anywhere with it, and it's sort of just doesn't have a clear beginning or end as such. It's sort of just stuff that happens. Or what I like about Basterds is 3 or 4 distinct plots starting from different places, all converging on a point, which I find is a lot more satisfying story-wise.
Yes. Yeah, I can see
the
that.
other strength.
I just feel like I enjoy Pulp Fiction more. I don't know why. I feel like Pulp Fiction has really good dialogue, but also I don't know. Maybe it's being set in America.
It's not stepping around history in the same way Bastards is. Maybe.
Yeah, I just feel like Inglourious Basterds is such an eggshell subject to fuck about with as much as he does.
Right.
And I feel like he just does a terrible job of being, if it was more subtle, it could be fine. If there was any sort of nuance there at all, I'd be fine with it. But there's just not, because it's just so...
Well, there is, just in other places and not...
Yeah, in other places. I'm talking about the climax
intermittent.
specifically. Yeah.
Which maybe is extra frustrating to show that in the same film he's capable of doing it and doesn't later.
Yeah.
Have you seen Django Unchained?
I enjoy Pulp Fiction a lot more. Have I seen what?
Have you seen Django Unchained?
No, I haven't. That is the next one on the list.
Okay, because I'm going to say, on the subject of, eggshell topics, obviously that's about slavery.
Yes.
So I'm interested to see what your reaction to that is. But again, I'm not an expert in terms of anything history-wise, but I don't know, I think it's, set in that period, but not specifically using any real characters or real events. So I think it's in its own sort of bubble of a universe again. So that might get away with it more.
That is actually an interesting point. Yeah, I'll give it a watch, because that would be an interesting discussion to have as well.
Because that one is also on the upper tier of Tarantino for me, at least. But again, I've not seen it for years, so I don't know anymore.